Hello and welcome to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. I'm Collin Whitchurch, joined today by Sean Zerillo for a quick look at the Monday MLB slate. And for once, when I say quick look, I really mean quick look. This is a weird Monday slate. Just 3 games today. We have Nationals Braves at 7:15 p.m. on MLB Network. We have Brewers at Padres, 9:40 p.m. Cardinals at Giants, 9:45 p.m. Just 3 games. So we're going to skew our normal format here with best bets, underdogs, etc. We're just going to go quickly through the 3 games, see if Sean has any bets, see if I have any bets. At the end, we'll maybe take a quick look at the playoff picture. It's the last Monday of the regular season. We'll be talking playoffs a week from today. By the way, Payoff Pitch fans, Payoff Pitch listeners, starting next week, once the playoffs start, we'll be with you 5 days a week. Assuming there's a game, Monday through Friday. If there is even one playoff game that day, we will have an episode for you every single day. Really, really excited for October. But we've got to get there first. Some races to figure out. NL Wild Card, AL West, AL Central now. Surprisingly, some seeding stuff to work out. But we've got 3 games today. Let's jump right into it. We're going to start with the first game of the day, Nationals Braves. Mackenzie Gore against Chris Sale. I believe these guys just faced off a couple last week. Fun matchup of lefties. Sale's been incredible since coming back from injury. Sean, do you have anything you're betting on Nationals Braves today?
Yeah, in terms of value bet sides totals for today, Braves first 5, I would say is the only thing maybe in range. I make that about minus 255, currently minus around 230 to 245 out there, basically at my cutoff price, and not having lineups, not having umpires. I'm not super excited to fire at anything at this point in time from a side and total perspective. I will say I lean to the over in that game, but the wind is blowing in, and we have 2 Action Lab systems for wind and weather pointing to that under. So the juice has actually gone from minus 110 to minus 120 on that over 7. I need umpires before I bet any totals today. I'm probably passing on all sides and totals, but I do have two prop bets on Mackenzie Gore. And if you hear any banging behind me, I do apologize. House currently under construction. My dog currently has ACL surgery and is recovering from that. So it's a bit of chaos in the Zerillo household at the moment. But in terms of props for the Braves and Nationals game, I have 2 props on Mackenzie Gore, both of which are related to his declining stuff and declining strikeout minus walk rate as the season has gone along. And in particular, his last start, Gore sitting at 94.4 miles an hour on his fastball. He's averaged 95.3 on the season. So velocity, a tick down in his last start. It was a half tick down 2 starts back, 94.8, now 94.4. It's possible at the end of the season here, Mackenzie Gore continuing to just fatigue a little bit and decline at the end of the year. I believe he gave up 5 runs in that last start against the Braves, but more importantly, 3 walks. And as I said, the stuff, the velocity, and the strikeout minus walk rate all sort of trending in the wrong direction. Through July, Gore had a strikeout rate of about 29%, 22.5% over the past 2 months. His walk rate has also gone up about 1.5 points, 8.7% to 9.9%. And most importantly here, the Braves are in their better split, much better against lefties than they are against righties. Last 30 days, 6th against left-handed pitching, a 116 WRC plus, 19th against righties, and 6% below average. So a 22-point swing, lefties versus righties for the Braves in terms of their split. And then also their strikeout rate, striking out just 16.8% of the time against lefties over the past month, closer to 22% against right-handed pitching. I like Gore over walks and under strikeouts. Hopefully we can cash both. I would imagine we cash at least one of these, though. Under 4.5 strikeouts at plus money. Any plus money price is fine there. And then over 2.5 walks to about plus 110. Both small prop pokes for me tonight against Gore with this Braves offense. As I said, I lean over, but I do expect Sale to shut down the Nationals. And if you want to bet the Braves first 5, I think that is the value play as well. That sort of correlates to everything else I've pointed out, but just rather have some plus money angles rather than betting plus 235. So expecting the Braves to get to Gore, potentially knock him out of the game, or even if he gets through 5, hopefully rack up the walks, rack up some pitch count, and keep him under 4.5 strikeouts.
Under 4.5 strikeouts, over 2.5 walks. If you want to parlay those together, Bet365 offers that plus 402 for those two together. The other one I was looking at, I was curious. You mentioned him potentially leaving the game early. His outs recorded line is sitting at 15.5. I don't know if you looked at that. The under is
Yeah, too
quite
much juice there for me,
Yeah.
unfortunately. If it was more reasonable, if it was like a pick 'em, I would have jumped in. But yeah, like minus 140 to minus 160, it was just too rich for me.
Yeah. I don't have anything super strong on this game. I'm going to go a little crazy here, go a little exotic. If you ever listen to the Action Network podcast with Brandon Anderson giving out his NFL picks, he likes to get a little zany, ladder stuff up, to just try to find the best possible angles here. This is one of the biggest pitching versus offense mismatches you can possibly see in a season, especially this version of the Nationals, this late season version of the Nationals against a left-handed pitcher, lefty bats in the lineup, and guys who just aren't major league caliber. Sale has been incredible since returning from injury. As I mentioned, 6 days ago, he faced these very same Nationals. 8 shutout, 3 hits, no walks, 9 strikeouts. So I want to be very clear here. Don't put anything significant on these bets. But FanDuel has some fun Chris Sale pitching specials out there. And we can ladder up him dealing. And not just from a strikeout perspective. That's usually what you get with these ladders. You can bet him over 8.5 strikeouts and then bet him to strike out 10, 11, 12, 13. No, we're going with the no-hitter angle here today. 3 up, 3 down first inning, minus 135. Easy full unit play right there. 6 up, 6 down, plus 240. 9 up, 9 down, plus 470. No hitter through 5 is 27 to 1. That's all at FanDuel. I love all of those. So just, go unit, go half unit, third of a unit, etc. FanDuel, those are all at FanDuel, like I said. Got to go over to BetMGM for Chris Sale to throw a no-hitter, 250 to 1. Why not put a 1/100th of a unit on that little couch change for the best possible pitcher versus offense matchup we can think of? The Nationals' bottom 5 offense against left-handed pitching. They have the worst offense against left-handed pitching by far since the trade deadline. Chris Sale's been absolutely dealing. So let's have a little fun today. We only got 3 games. If your attention split between baseball and Monday Night Football tonight, something a little extra to pay attention to, Chris Sale. My question for you, Sean, before we move on, put you on the spot a little bit. Is Chris Sale a Hall of Famer?
Ooh, I think is he behind or ahead of Jacob deGrom? I guess that's the real question. I would imagine he's, in my mind, behind, but he probably has better stats, just lesser hardware, right? deGrom had the better peak. Let's see. So Sale has 143 wins. deGrom has 96.
Just by Baseball Reference WAR, Sale's at 57 for deGrom's at 45 even. But that's, again, 12 years with a lot of injuries versus 15 years with only 1 real injury.
He's thrown 500 more innings and has 800 more strikeouts than deGrom, which I think is interesting. But yeah, just the one Cy Young. I think he probably needs to get to like closer to 200 wins, right? So probably another 5-6 more good years, and he's already 36. I would say he's gonna miss. I'd say he barely misses.
That's tough. Yeah, my wonder for him is if he's too much in like the Johan Santana realm. But the guy who came to mind for me, and I'm going to look this up as we're talking in case so I don't look stupid, is Roy Halladay. And actually somewhat comparable, although Roy Halladay, pitching in a little bit different era, did have the wins. He got to 200 wins. But he had a 16-year career in 65.4 WAR. Made the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. Chris Sale, again, now is at 15 years and 57 for WAR. Another year after next year, if he has a solid year next year, he'll basically have the same career to Roy Halladay. But again, Halladay won 2 Cy Young. Sale's only won 1. Sale has 8 top 10 Cy Young finishes, though. I think he's in. I think if he retires today, he's in.
The 1 or 2 points I would make in Sale's favor to actually putting him in: 9-time All-Star. deGrom is 5. 3-time strikeout leader. deGrom did it twice. So I actually think those are, even though 1 Cy Young, like he's led the league in strikeouts 3 times, 9 All-Star appearances, that makes the case a little bit more solid. it's just tough, in 2025 to look at a guy with 143 career wins because we're in our 30s and we're so used to like having these benchmarks for what is a Hall of Fame pitcher, and those just don't really exist anymore. So
Yeah, I
we
think
kind of
that
have to redefine what the new benchmarks are for like Hall of Fame quality. And I don't really know what the numerical value would be at this point, but yeah, I'd say 9 or 10 All-Star appearances probably is enough. Half a career of an entire decade of All-Star appearances. I feel like in my mind that should be enough, but putting me on the spot, like yes or no, I would have said barely missed, but the more I look at his numbers, especially in comparison to the era, I think the stronger the case is.
Yeah, I think by the time Sale's Hall of Fame eligible, we won't be looking at wins in terms of qualifiers for Hall of Fames quite the same.
Right.
Yohan Santana, by the way, 12 years and 51-1 career WAR. He only won 139 games, but he didn't sniff the Hall. For me, it's not even Sale against DeGrom. I think they're both Hall of Famers if they retired after this year, but we'll see. Interesting. Let's move on though to our second matchup of the day: Brewers against Padres. Freddie Peralta against Nick Pivetta. The Brewers clinched the NL Central. So this is potentially a hangover game for them. The Padres, they're kind of locked in at this point. The Dodgers haven't clinched the West. They're not 100% locked into their standing, but very likely that the Padres are the 5 seed in the playoffs and playing at the Cubs in the first round. Anything on this game today, Sean?
Yeah, Nick Pivetta over outs. We're getting the Brewers hangover angle, as you mentioned. We'll see what lineup they put out tonight. Contreras did not catch yesterday, so I'd imagine, a lineup tonight. They're still trying to lock down the number 1 seed of the National League. That is the only thing they have not clinched yet. They have clinched a bye and their division, I believe, but actually not even 100% sure if they've fully clinched a bye ahead of the NL West as well. But technically still have things to play for. If they're going to throw out a B lineup, today might be the day for it after celebrating in the locker room yesterday and then getting on a team plane and having to travel to San Diego. But more importantly, the Padres yesterday holding off our White Sox ticket. And the White Sox, I believe, went 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position. It was excruciating. But the Padres used Mason Miller, Bob Suarez, and Adrian Morejon all on back-to-back days. They also used Jeremiah Estrada on both Friday and Saturday. So their 4 best relievers have all pitched either consecutive days or twice in the past 3 days. They used Wandy Peralta 3 of the past 4 days. I would imagine you get Nick Pivetta for as long as he can go tonight, and then the Padres B bullpen. So hopefully, a little bit of a reduced Brewers lineup tonight. I'm not anticipating that will be the case. I projected their A lineup in there. Don't show value on the side or the total for this matchup. Slightly over, make it about 8.2 though compared to 8. 7.5 minus 120 over would interest me. But again, Brewers very likely in a hangover game lineup. And we've seen it, and I've betted a number of times already this season, the day after clinching, these teams just struggle to score. So Pavetta's gone over 17.5 outs in 21 of his 30 starts this season. It's a 70% clip. Minus 233 would be the implied odds. Even if you put that closer to 60%, minus 150 tonight, I still think it's a viable bet at a pick 'em price. Over 17.5 outs for Pivetta. Now, not only the Brewers' hangover lineup, but more importantly, the Padres' bullpen usage over the weekend, I think this sort of necessitates length from him tonight.
Yeah, I'm on the Padres money line tonight for that exact reason, just the hangover angle. I think the most recent example we saw of the hangover angle was when the Cubs clinched the division right before the weekend, and then went up against Hunter Green, who threw a complete game shutout 1-hitter against, and it was kind of the Cubs A lineup in that game. Bush, Happ, Suzuki, PCA, Dansby, they all played. Seiya Suzuki hit a double. That was their only base runner that game. So they were hungover. We'll see if the Brewers are hungover. As you mentioned, haven't quite locked up home field. They're 3 games ahead of the Phillies still. I don't know if they've clinched. They're 7 ahead of the Dodgers. I don't know what tiebreakers or if they have 6 or 7 games left for the 3 seed, but I'm pretty sure that they've locked up at least a bye. Trying to lock
I think
up
they've
home
clinched
field,
the bye, but not the 1 seed.
They're 5 ahead of the Blue Jays for overall home field. Get to the World Series. So I just like the Padres on the money line tonight for Pavetta, all the reasons that you mentioned. And I'm surprised we're getting the price we're getting. Minus 118 for the Padres to just win the game outright seems really good. So I'll probably be on Padres. I'll probably be on Pavetta's outs recorded line along with you. But I like the Padres on the money line tonight as well.
Yelich
All right,
owns
last.
him. Just worth mentioning that. Like going through his batter versus pitcher splits, Yelich and Contreras have hit him pretty hard, and the Brewers have like good numbers against him, but it's nothing that really worries me in fewer than 100 career plate appearances. But it seems like Yelich hits him pretty well. So if Yelich is in there, maybe some Yelich props is something to target.
All right, let's move on to our last game of the day. Cardinals at Giants, 9:45 p.m. Eastern. We have an age difference of 17 years? Yeah, 17 years between our starting pitchers here. Michael McGreevy against Justin Verlander. It's worth watching if this is the last or second last start of Verlander's career. I know he said he wants to pitch next year. He's been really good in the last month or two here for the Giants. Everyone's been kind of wish casting where he's going to end up. Maybe the Giants bring him back. I saw one person say he should sign with the Orioles, take the Charlie Morton deal, and complete his tour of teams with orange as their primary color. I personally think, the Tigers just DFA'd Charlie Morton the other day. How about a Detroit reunion next year? They could use some help in their rotation, have a little send-off with a team that brought him back like McCutcheon's doing in Pittsburgh. But for today, we have Verlander against McGreevy. Sean, we've talked about McGreevy a couple times. I know you're a big fan of his. Our colleague, Derek Carty, tracked a bet this morning, and I've tailed it. This is my best bet for this game is McGreevy under 1.5 walks tonight, which you can get at plus money. He walked 3 in his last start, but only has 15 walks on the season. I think that this is a good buy low spot from a walks department on him. Just because I think that it's inflated a bit based on the fact that he struggled with his command last time out against Cincinnati. But you are getting under 1.5 walks right now at, I just had it and I lost it. It's at plus money, plus 125 at Bet365 for him to walk fewer than 2 batters tonight. So that's what I like in Cardinals Giants. Do you have any angles on this game?
Yeah, I like that. I'll probably end up telling that just a 4% walk rate for McGreevy this season. So even if he faces the Giants lineup 3 times, that still projects at a 4% walk rate. That projects for about 1.1 walks across 27 plate appearances. So McGreevy is excellent command. If Derek's on it, I'm sure there's actionable value on it, and I'll probably be joining him on that. No other bets for me on this game. This was the one money line that I was maybe interested in playing. I made the Cardinals closer to plus 120. They were plus 133 last night. It has come down to plus 128 today. And even when it was as high as plus 133 last night, the majority of the market was already closer to plus 122, plus 125. So there was no substantial value, no actionable value past like a 1% edge that I thought was worth firing at. But if it does float up to Cards plus 130, plus 135, I would probably bet St. Louis, and otherwise just going to fire at McGreevy. And beyond that, my rooting interest for the final week, I just need the Yankees to lose one more game. That's really it. To hit Yankees under 93.5 wins, they have some very easy opponents the rest of the way, and they also came back, I believe, the last 2 days. So I'm hoping the Yankees do not sweep the remainder of their schedule. That is my main focus. Detroit division, getting that home, that has been quite the adventure. And Schwarber RBI leader and Max Fried wins leader. Those are the rooting interest here for the final week. So no win for Freddie Peralta today, hopefully for the Brewers, and we'll be rooting for your Padres moneyline ticket.
Yeah, I'd say the only future I have that's really up in the air for me right now is something that I didn't think was going to be up in the air a couple weeks ago. I have got the under on Astros win total. They need 4 more wins to hit their over. So that's going to be tight. The Mariners really helped us out this weekend. Let's talk playoff race here just real quick before we go. Couple races here coming down to the wire. Your thoughts on primarily we're looking at AL Central. We're looking at NL Wild Card. AL West at this point, I'm looking at Baseball Prospectus Pacoda. The Mariners now at 98.5% to win the AL West. Just shocking turnaround. You were really high on the Mariners around the trade deadline, around the All-Star break. You gave out a lot of Mariners futures, so kudos there. Hopefully people tailed you on that. Still have a little bit to get home there for those bets. We're not counting our winnings just yet, but nicely done by Seattle. The AL Central, Tigers and Guardians start a 3-game series tomorrow. Tarek Skubal against Gavin Williams leads that off. Really, the Twins really helped the Tigers out yesterday because the Tigers lost again, were swept by the Braves, and the Twins came back, beat the Guardians. So the Tigers have a 1-game lead. Baseball Prospectus Pacoda has Detroit at 66.8, Cleveland at 33.2 to win that division. And then in the NL wild card, we were talking about this right before recording. I know you have some thoughts on this. The Mets and Reds are tied now for that last wild card spot. The Reds do hold the tiebreaker, but Pacoda has the Mets at 53.3% to win that wild card spot. The Reds just at 37.5%. Your thoughts on any of these races as we enter this final week of the season?
So the Tigers will get Tarek Skubal starting 2 of their final 6 games here. I think that is partially why they should be favored, but the market has them at about, or I should say the projection market, average projection across ATC, Pacoda, Fangraphs, etc., has them at about 65%, Guardians at about 35%. I do believe the Guardians currently lead the head-to-head on the season, 6-4. So I do think the Tigers actually need to beat them by a game. If you want to check that for me, Colin, I do believe the Tigers actually need to beat them by a game in order to clinch the division. If they tie, I do believe the Guardians would end up winning the division, provided the outcome of their series, obviously, on Tuesday through Thursday. But it looks like Skubal against Williams, Flaherty against Bybee, and then Kiter Montero against Parker Messick. In those 3 head-to-head matchups, the Guardians are then going to go to Texas, and they will avoid Jacob deGrom. They'll probably get Patrick Corbin in one of those final 3 starts, whereas the Tigers are going to finish their series up in Boston against the team who is fighting for a playoff spot and likely starting Connolly early in one of those starts, but they'll likely avoid Garrett Crochet in that 3-game series. So essentially, you're just getting the Tigers coming in here with a 1-game lead, a true 1-game lead, or it's really a half a game lead, right? If they're only up 1 game in the standings, but don't own the tiebreaker and would otherwise.
And you're right about that. And you're right about that. Cleveland's up 6-4 in the season series right now.
And if Cleveland just wins one of these 3 games, they own the tiebreaker going into that final weekend. So they could theoretically be 2 games behind, but really like a game and a half behind going into that final 3-game set, with the Tigers needing to win 2 of those 3 games in order to clinch. So I think it's a very fascinating final week here. Obviously, having Skubal twice does give you a slight edge. Currently, the Tigers are about minus 148 to win the division. As I said, the fair odds out there across all projection systems say they're a value bet. They make them closer to minus 185. So minus 148 could be a decent way to bet the Tigers getting 2 Skubal starts the rest of the way. Realistically, you probably only need to win 4 of those 6 games in order to win the division. In terms of the NL race and the Mets and the Reds, I think the odds here are much more interesting because the Mets are currently about plus 140. The Reds to make it. The Reds are about plus 115 to miss the playoffs. Projections have the Mets at around 52%, the Reds at about 40%, and the D-backs at around 7% to make the playoffs at this point. Now, the schedule certainly favors Cincinnati, and I do think that despite the projections saying, the Mets are a better team, likelier to do better over this final week, I think when you actually look at the matchups, which I do not believe these projection systems are taking into account, the Reds are going to face the Pirates. They're going to get Ashcraft. They will face Skeens. Then they're going to get Johan Oviedo. And then they're going to face a Brewers team that likely has clinched and has nothing to play for at that point. Yes, Freddie Peralta is listed as one of those 3 starters. He may only throw 4 innings in that start if he even pitches. Brandon Woodruff is listed as the 3rd starter in that series. He just got put on the IL. So the Reds may end up playing a team that is not trying over the final 3 days and potentially missing its 2 best pitchers. The Mets have to go to Chicago and go to Miami. David Peterson is going to start twice for them over the remainder of the season, but they're going to face Kate Horton, Matt Boyd, Shota Minaga, Sandy Alcantara, and Yuri Perez over the next 5 days. So good luck to my Mets. I think they're absolutely screwed in terms of the schedule. They're going to have to match their way to the postseason against some very good pitchers, and they do not own the tiebreaker against the Reds. So all things considered, despite the projection math saying value on the Mets at plus 140, I think the matchups are an absolute nightmare, and the Reds just need to play even with them over the final week. So I actually think the odds are correct. I think the projections are incorrect in terms of Mets and Reds right now. I would make the Reds a favorite based on the schedule.
I'm just thankful we have some races down the stretch. You know, it looked like a couple weeks ago, it looked like everything was going to be wrapped up by this final week, thanks to, with my sincerest apologies, thanks to the Mets for collapsing here a little bit, giving us a race in the National League.
Can I make the case for Tito Francona, though, for NL Manager of the Year ahead of Pat Murphy? Like, what are we doing?
Absolutely.
Can Tito get the award if the Reds get in? That was my whole argument before the year, by the way, was you could bet Reds like 9-1 to win the division. You could bet Tito at the same odds to win NL Manager of the Year.
Yeah.
If they're in the mix, I think it's a better bet. Obviously, they're not going to win the division, but I think he has just as much of a case as Pat Murphy does. I know the Brewers, overachieved probably just as much as the Reds did this year, but I really do think you flip a coin between them, I think they're both deserving.
If I would have had money a couple weeks ago that the AL Central was the most intriguing division race the last week of the season, I would have been shocked about that as well. We do it. The Yankees are only 2 back of Toronto, so that's not completely wrapped up as well. The other thing about Detroit's collapse that's interesting is that even if they hold on and win the Central, they're not getting the bye anymore. Seattle's passed them up. Seattle's 2 games up on the bye now. So it's very possible that Guardians and Tigers kind of play to a stalemate this last week, and then they got 3 more games next week in Detroit in the 3-6 matchup in the playoffs if Cleveland is able to leapfrog, Boston or Houston.
And they played last year too, right, I believe?
Yes, they did in the DS.
DS, yep.
I have vivid memories of Lane Thomas hitting a giant home run off Tarek Skubal in Game 5 of that series. A shocking loss for Detroit. But we will have more tomorrow, talk about a full slate of games as we get closer and closer to the playoffs. That'll do it for today's episode of Payoff Pitch. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to tail some of the bets from today's episode, look for the quick slip links in the episode description. Don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app. And don't forget to leave us that 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to the podcast. Also, check out the Action Network Discord. There's a link in the episode description of this podcast. And if you're on Twitter, we have a great new feature. If you see a bet from any of your favorite action experts or anyone on gambling Twitter, you can now tag @Playbook and tell our bot to build you a bet slip at a book of your choice. It will build it out for you with a quick slip link that opens right up to your sports book. So keep an eye out for that new tool @Playbook on Twitter. As I said, we'll be back tomorrow. Another episode of Payoff Pitch. Full slate of games. Full slate of playoff episodes of Payoff Pitch coming your way starting next week. Very excited about that. For Sean Zerillo, I'm Collin Whitchurch. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast, and good luck with all your bets.